We love yarn. I mean, I guess it should be obvious. And if you're watching this video, there's a pretty good chance that you love yarn too. Yarn, it comes in all different shapes and sizes, and there are several terms used to describe the presentation or the put up of yarn. Let's start with the hank. A hank is a loop of yarn in a continuous circle that's secured with ties. Some hanks are just simply folded over and banded with a label, and that is called a folded hank. If you take a hank and you twist it, fold it in half, and then secure these ends by interlocking them together, that's a twisted hank. Some hanks are braided either singly or with multiple skeins together, and I think braided hanks are always really pretty. This elongated machine-produced shape is also called a skein. This type is usually referred to as a pull skein. Sometimes you'll see them especially in your craft yarns that are these big long logs of yarns. We have cute little logs. This fatter version is called a bullet skein. You often see things like sock yarns in this bullet shape. The term ball is also used generically, and the massive machinery that produces these pull and bullet skeins is called a ball winder. So that's not confusing at all, because we think of this as a ball winder, but some ball winders would probably fill up most of this building. They're really huge and expensive equipment. A true round ball that we think of, often, that is achieved by winding it by hand. I'm sure many of you have put hanks together by hand before, or just, when you unravel, and that's a true ball of yarn. We don't see this type of ball often commercially, but occasionally you will. A donut ball, we have a lot of yarns like this. It's a very common machine put up, is this machine wound skein, where you can have a hardcore ball. And this is where it's wound around something, well, by the name hard. This has a nice, round piece of cardboard in the middle. Slippery yarns are usually put up this way. Sometimes it'll be a styrofoam core. This helps the yarns from falling apart. This type of yarn in a donut ball would be a hot mess. A cake is what you get when you wind a hank into a ball on a hand winder. However, we do see that presentation in commercially put up yarns as well. A lot of times with gradients where you can see all the colors. In yarn, it can also come on a cone. What determines a yarn's put up? Several factors go into this decision, but I'd speculate and say that the type of equipment available to the manufacturer would be the number one factor. Smaller companies and indie dyers simply do not have access to the super expensive and massive commercial ball winding equipment. Therefore, these yarns will usually be found in hanks. We like hanks. They don't fall apart on the shelf, and you really get a good feel for not only the yarn and its texture and the colors, even though they have to be wound into a ball. I know sometimes it's annoying to some of you, but they just stay nicely together. They're easy to display, and quite frankly, I think yarns sell better in a hank just because you do get more of an up-close and personal feel. While you may like hanks too, you might not enjoy winding them into cakes, especially if you are having to do it by hand. But we have some really nifty tools that will help you with that task. Only hanks need wound. All of the other shapes are put up so that they are ready to use. I'm going to start by untwisting the hank, and I'm going to inspect it to make sure that these ties are holding it in a continuous circle. You want to make sure that there are no strands crossing over so that it's not in a circle before you put it on the swift, because otherwise you're going to have a big mess on your hands. This piece, there's two pieces of equipment to wind yarn into a ball, swift and the ball winder. This is the swift. It's the most important piece of equipment because it is what's going to hold the skein. Without this, the ball winder cannot do its job. So if you're only going to purchase one of these, you need to start with the swift. It's called an umbrella swift because it opens and closes like an umbrella. So I've checked my circle, my hank, make sure it's in a circle. Put it around the swift. I'm going to open it up to hold it and tighten. Now I can snip the ties. I wait till I get on the swift before I snip the ties. I don't want anything to go wrong. Sometimes things do go wrong, and when they do, it's not very pretty. So I'm going to snip the ties. Some of the ties will just be a tie only. But one of these is going to be where our yarn ends are, where they're tied together. That one's just a tie. As I'm going to make sure it's not twisted around each other, it kind of makes it a little easier on my arm when I'm winding. Okay, this is the one with the ties. Let's see which one I want to use. That one seems to be coming from underneath, so I'm going to try to find the one that's on the top. Let's see. Sometimes there's not a clear winner here. I think it's not really going to matter then. Okay, let's tuck this one in so it's not flopping around. You want to make sure they're not flopping around or worse, getting wrapped around here, because that'll be a big mess. Okay, so I've got my tie here. And despite making sure it's in my circle, sometimes things don't like to pull right. Let's see if this is going to be a trouble skein. No, it's not. Okay, good. I think we're in business. All right, so I'm going to take my end. There's a little eyelet loop holder here. I'm going to wrap it through there twice to get it in the eyelet, like so. Just try it. You just go loop, loop. If not, you can always just stick it through. The cone on the ball winder has a slot in it. That's to put your center pull end in. I'm going to put that like that. I'm going to leave it a little bit long so I can find it. I'm going to wrap this excess back around the Swift. Now it's time to put it into a ball. And just turn. When it's through, I can find my center here and pull it out first so that way I know where it is because it's the loop. Pull it from the cone. Sometimes those come off. And then the one that's on the outside, I'll just wrap it around. You can either use your crochet hook or your fingers. I just use my fingers and just kind of tuck it under one of the threads to secure it. And then there's my center pull. If you don't have a winder or a Swift, these are pretty cool too. And these are good if you're especially on the move and not at home where you have this available at the moment. This is a winding stick from Contrinkles. It's for winding a center pull ball. It's pretty super cool. And they have instructions on how to do it. It has, so you can find your center pull and you just wind it around this stick, and that sure beats winding it by hand into a ball.